back to that developing news we brought you at the top of the hour. Pierre Poilievre is set to get his first shot at a vote of no confidence in the Liberal government as soon as next week. Let's talk about that with the front bench. Brian Gallant, Lisa Raitt, Tom Mulcair, and Marika Walsh are here. Just a very quick explainer for everyone watching. There's 5 opposition motions afforded the Conservatives before the end of the year. The Liberals, the House Leader, can set the schedule for that. They could back in them all if they wanted. It's been done in, previous minority governments. Karina Gould, the minister, said she wouldn't do that, and now she has allotted Tuesday as the first opposition day, which means the Conservatives can introduce a motion of no confidence then, and then Wednesday, Brian, there'll be a vote on it. I'm told it could be as simple as, do you have confidence in the government? How, I guess, what are the stakes of that vote, do you think?
If anybody follows New Brunswick politics and the history of New Brunswick, they would know that I'm very aware of how important a confidence vote is. So and the people chuckling would be following New Brunswick elections over the years and the moving pieces of our politics. But yeah, I mean, it's very significant. I think, as was being said just before the break, the odds are that the Conservatives are going to introduce this. They committed to it, and that the Bloc would support it because of the momentum that they're feeling with the by-election, but just with polling in Quebec kind of going towards them. So I think they'll be keen to go into an election. The question then becomes the NDP. And I certainly, Tom would be better placed than I, but my sense would be a few things. One is, yeah, you could maybe say we won a by-election, we fought off the Conservatives in Winnipeg. Is that really a big win, or is that more of a sigh of relief, as you put it, Vassy, earlier? Second, I would say that I think the NDP probably won't necessarily fare better right now, and I don't know if they would want to test that right at this moment. And I also think that it will be hard for them to vote confidence. It'll be hard for them maybe to abstain, but it'll be hard for them to given everything that's been going on in the last few days, to sort of find a way to get out of it. So they're going to have to think of some type of excuse if they don't want to have an election. But last but not least, I think Jagmeet Singh is probably interested in not going into an election, because if he doesn't sort of perform to what people would like him to in his party, he's probably going to have his last crack at it. So he probably would like to stay on in the role for a little bit longer. So I'm not sure he personally would want to go into an election right now.
My guess is that the sort of complicated politics that Brian references there, Lisa, will help to determine what that motion ends up being, like the wording of it. I think that's why the Tories will put something incredibly simple out there that doesn't involve, for example, the carbon tax or a specific policy. Just, do you have confidence in the government? Because everything Jagmeet Singh said in ripping up that agreement was that he didn't.
It should be just a straight up and down motion, yes or no, to a very simple question. And then it really is on the Bloc and it's on the NDP to make the decision as to whether or not they choose to take this government down and proceed to an election. It really is as simple as that, Vassy. And I just am wondering what the Liberals are thinking, quite frankly, because if you were to ask me, I don't see them ready for an election. They don't have a campaign director. They don't have a policy book. They are definitely not ready to go out to the polls because they don't have enough candidates across the country. And as a result, are they putting this out there as a massive game of chicken to see what's going to happen with respect to Mr. Singh? And boy, what a gamble that is. Like that, this is when pundits get excited, because this is a high stakes kind of push your chips into the middle of the table moment. And if they're going to go ahead and do it. And I don't doubt that the Conservatives want a carbon tax election. They do. So they may go as simple as an up or down motion, which is yes or no.
Yeah, I have a gut feeling that they will, Tom. The Liberal question that Lisa raises is also the most interesting to me. They had an option to do this anytime, basically, over the next 3.5 months. They could have done more in November. And like, why now? Are they attempting to call everyone's bluff?
Yes, I think Lisa's, and you are right on that. It is a game of chicken, and they pushed all their chips to the middle of the table. I also think that, it's easy to believe that they could go with that simple an opposition day motion. But I'm guessing that maybe there are some people around Poilievre who will suggest to him, you might want to take one or two sentences from the recent statements by Jagmeet Singh. You know, things like, the Liberals are finished. Justin Trudeau doesn't deserve another chance, and then say, and for this reason, we no longer have confidence in this government, and see what Mr. Singh does with it. It's also important, at Lisa alluded to it, it's the timing. So you start with the opposition, the official opposition. It's their motion. They vote first. The Bloc has the second highest number of seats in opposition. They're next. So I can't see François Blanchet voting his confidence in Trudeau at this stage of the game. He doesn't have to, because he knows he's putting tremendous pressure on the shoulders of Jagmeet Singh. What's Mr. Singh done? And I think it's going to be very, very difficult for him, because he is not ready for a general election. I think that there are some members of his caucus who are feeling pretty happy about their numbers in Montreal, even though they didn't win, that they had just won in Elmont-Transcona in Winnipeg. I don't think it's there for them. So I think that he might be in a very difficult situation next week when it comes time to vote.
And do you anticipate, Marika, that as a result they would likely abstain?
Well, I'm not sure that the Liberals will survive if the NDP only abstain.
Yeah.
I think I don't actually see for sure that the Bloc would vote no. I think it will depend on what negotiations are happening behind the scenes. Yves-François Blanchet has been saying to Quebecers, we can get good deals for you. So he might want to show to the constituents of LaSalle that they can actually deliver on that promise before then voting down the government, on the fourth,
Although he said a few times
one.
this week that he has no hesitation doing that either.
Right, but so did Jagmeet Singh.
Yeah. Valid. Yeah.
So I think I'm very curious to see how this plays out. This is part of the Liberal playbook, though, to call the party's bluffs early on. We saw this after the 2021 election. Aaron O'Toole's party and the NDP and the Bloc were also very quickly forced into a confidence vote after that 2021 election because the Liberals called their bluff. And in that case, it was successful. I would argue that they are in a much more weakened position now. But it is kind of Justin Trudeau's playbook, so it doesn't actually surprise me that they're going with it.
Do you think it's the right move, Brian, to put this on the table now versus wait a few months?
Well, I think there's a few things, right? Normally, typically when you're in these types of situations, there's a little bit of a dance that is caused by the fact that nobody wants to be blamed for an election. Where things are at in the polls, I'm not sure that sentiment is as prevalent, right? I'm not sure people are as worried, given that it feels through the polls that Canadians are sort of willing to give a message as of right now. So I'm not sure that sentiment is as prevalent. So that might not be the consideration. I think really at this stage, I would sort of guess that parties are thinking to themselves, do we want an election? Is it in our benefit? And I think two of the parties would probably say yes. I agree with Marika. I think the Bloc will certainly use this opportunity to try to get some things if they can. But at the same time, that's all with the idea that that's an election boost for them, right? Because then they go into an election campaign and say, look, we're going to come out with a minority government again. We've delivered this. So it really would all be with the idea of what will help them in the next election. And going into one right away, if they see the possibility of doing so, they may just pull the trigger. I just think the NDP, as Tom eloquently said, and certainly he's well placed to analyze that. I think that they probably shouldn't and wouldn't want one right now, but they're in a bit of a corner now. It's quite tough for them to sort of save face and save the government. I mean, they may say, oh, well, we want to wait for some implementation of something, but that's starting to feel a little weaker, given, again, as Tom mentioned, some of the comments that Singh made, even the ones that he said, Canadians are done with the Liberals, are done with Justin Trudeau. Well, those are pretty blanket statements, and certainly hard to vote in favor of confidence a week after you say something like that.
Yeah, he said a lot worse. He said they abandon Canadians, they're weak, and they're selfish, if I remember the exact quote. Lisa, Brian's point, I think also on the Bloc reminds me of what Marika said, and the way in which this by-election result might embolden their actions going forward on a vote like the one that's happening next week. I feel like they're pretty unpredictable at this point, too.
Well, that's a great word for it. Isn't everybody awfully emotional on this moment? I mean, isn't it a little bit crazy how they're all acting? I mean, I feel like the Prime Minister, I feel like I'm in Cape Breton. You want to go? Let's go. Let's go. Let's take it on. It's time to go to the polls. I'm ready. Are you ready? And I think that's the kind of feeling that you're going to get from the NDP and the Bloc as well. It's going to, but politics is emotion at the end of the day. In a lot of ways, it doesn't always go the way you expect it. And the Liberals are asking a really big question of two parties that they do not know the answer to, which is, are they ready to go? And maybe they are, maybe they're not, but it really is the decision of the Bloc Québécois and the NDP as to whether or not this Trudeau government continues on. And trust me, the Conservatives will not let either party forget it if they do support the government. If they have a chance to take the government down and they don't take it, they will suffer, suffer, suffer.
Tom, last word to you. It's going to be a dramatic week.
It is a dramatic week already. And I think that Trudeau again showed today by simply repeating the same mantra. Canadians don't understand. They need more of me. He was almost blaming the voters in less. So he actually believes that. And that's the delusional part, because he's not looking at the numbers. And if he does look at them, he doesn't believe them. So maybe there's going to be a dose of reality come into it. But if he's going to play this game of chicken, he might get surprised, because you sometimes trip and stumble your way into a battle you weren't expecting. I honestly believe that Singh will not vote against the Liberals and bring them down next week. I can't see that happening. I don't see a level of preparation. I don't see a number of candidates that would make that plausible. But bigger battles have happened by mistake. And this is what we're heading into Tuesday.
Yeah,
I feel like I should just say the Liberals, at least before today, were very confident they would get the support from the Bloc or NDP.
Yeah, before today. Things are different.
Things have changed.
We'll see 1 week from today when that motion gets introduced. Thanks, everyone.